Hello guys, in this video I'll be polishing the intake plenum on my 300ZX. Now we have two major problems with this one. First of all, it's not an easy task to pull a 300ZX plenum. That takes like an hour if you know what you're doing. Then on top you have to polish this plenum is also not an easy task. This is especially if you're doing it yourself, if you're doing it by hand, it's a process that takes maybe a couple of days even, if not weeks. And in the meantime, the car is out of commission, you can't drive it, and I've done this before. It was definitely not fun. So what I've done this time is I got another one. I'll be polishing this one in the meantime, so I have some time to do it, and once it's ready, I'm gonna swap it back in. So let's get to that. After I stripped down the plenum and deleted all the coolant lines I won't be needing anymore, I started sanding it. Now, if you're doing this for the first time or you're not sure what a certain tool gonna do, I recommend you start on the bottom side. That way you don't have to worry too much if you mess up something, and you have plenty of time to practice, and by the time you get to the top, I promise you'll be a pro. This particular plenum already came painted black, and that actually helped me. That way it was a lot easier to see all the areas that I haven't touched yet. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but once all the aluminum dust starts falling all over the thing, it's sometimes hard to see. So it's a cool little trick you can always use. I'm about 10 hours into this, and I just wanted to give you a close-up of what I've done so far. So as you can see, most of the areas that are easily accessible are, let's say, done, at least with the first grit, with the roughest grit. Now for the next couple of hours I'll be focusing on all of these tight areas, and I know that's gonna take me more than I expect anyway, and also finish all this mold castings, delete those, just blend those in. Now this is a pretty long process. It takes anywhere from 20 to 50 hours according to different people, and it definitely took me around 50 hours to finish the whole process. Now I know this is not gonna work for everybody, but at the time I had a really stressful job, and this actually really helped me de-stress. There's just something to it, sitting on your back porch focusing on this one thing for sometimes 6 hours straight. So I really enjoyed doing this actually. Okay, quick recap here. This is about 20 hours into it, and pretty much most of the work with the Dremel is done. I only have to fix a few more rough edges like this one right there, but besides that, everything else is done. And now switching to hand sanding, and for me, just nothing beats hand sanding at the end of the day. This is hand sanding is the part where it starts getting better and better really fast, but still I have about 10 more hours to go on this one. With that being said, the work with the first grit, in this case 60, does take forever. It probably takes half of the time of the whole process, but as you start moving to finer and finer grits, it goes faster and faster. With that in mind, what I'd like to do first is focus on one little area, maybe 1 square inch or even less, and go all the way up to polishing or wherever it is you want to stop. So that way you can always look back at that little area, and not only that it keeps you motivated, but it also kind of gets you the idea how far you want to go with it. You don't have to go all the way up to chromed look. You can stop at 400 or 800. As long as it's uniformed, it's gonna look good. It's totally up to you. And if you think you went too far, you can always make it a little bit duller with the previous grid, really easy. After all the sanding was done, it was time to give it a thorough cleaning. Not only to get rid of all the aluminum dust I made, but also to get rid of 20-plus-year-old gunk inside, and trust me, there was a lot of it. I improvised with a brush on a drill and used a lot of engine degreaser and rinsed it all out with water, and it cleaned it out really well. And here we are, down to polishing. Without a doubt, the most enjoyable part of the process. You don't have to worry about wearing a mask or gloves or making a mess anymore. Just make yourself comfortable and enjoy, look at your work. Actually, while editing this, caught myself looking at this part over and over, probably like 10 times or so. I'm actually considering polishing one I'm about to take off of the car just to have it somewhere on display, because just look how it turned out. I can't wait to put it on the car now. As for tools I've been using in this process, let's start with a respirator. You'll be making a lot of aluminum dust, and you definitely want to have it on throughout the whole sanding process. Dremel bits. I really like these sanding bands, and I went through maybe 15 or 20 of these. This one right here also works really well. This one right here I really liked. It's good to get those in those hard to reach places. This one right here was really good to blend those mold castings in. This thing right here, it looked a little gimmicky when I first saw it, but I decided to give it a try. It works like a little fan, and it's actually really useful. It blows the aluminum dust away, and it makes you see better what you're doing. As a Dremel, I used a standard Dremel with a flexible shaft, and that made it a lot easier. It's not like you can't do it without it, but it will be a lot harder. It's tedious even with this, but you can only imagine like holding this thing for 30 hours. It really suck. Next, I used these sanding pads for the first time, and I really like them. I'll be using them again, definitely. Some steel wool as well. But the biggest surprise was this flexible sandpaper by 3M. Same thing, it looked a little bit gimmicky when I saw it, but I decided to give it a try, and I really like it. It's kind of flexible and works way better than the standard sandpaper. It allows you to get in those hard to reach places. And to finish it off, I used Mother's aluminum polish and rag, and that's pretty much it. As I was finishing the process, the car developed an issue and the whole engine wiring harness had to be replaced, and to do that you pretty much have to remove the plenum anyway. So the guys at Royalty Performance jumped in, and a huge shout out to them. They actually did most of the work, and I'm actually embarrassed to say this, but the whole process took me almost a year to do, and there's been a few new goodies under the hood, but without further ado, here's how it looks like now. This made it all worth it. I'm so inspired to do some more work to the car now, and I hope you find it inspiring as well. Thanks for watching.